so much for allowing me the time and space to speak to you all. I understand this is going to be a little bit of a diversion from all the technical contents that we've had during the last couple of days. So hopefully it's either going to be refreshing or it's going to be a bit daunting to embark on this. We'll do our best to find a middle ground. So for the next 20 minutes, I'll try my best to take you over the course of the last 100 years that BSI has been around to establish standards and procedures. Don't worry, I'll try my best to keep you awake. We're going to focus predominantly on the course of the AI standardization roadmap that we've been progressing along and introduce you to the standards development activities that we've got around here. And I would like to leave the floor open for questions at the end for Q&A, so I'll try to be as concise as possible with the presentation part of the session. So BSI is an international company, even though we're branded as a British standards institution. We originally started life in standardization on very materialistic components of standards to ensure safety, to ensure ease of communications of what's understood to be a base level of quality, a base level of adherence and certification to facilitate trade. So as the landscape of standards development grew and expanded over the years, we've also seen a need to incorporate concepts that are not tangible. We have seen a need to develop and evolve as a standards group to incorporate some of the more wider, broader concepts of what is good, of what guidances can do, how we can support legislation, and also involve more of an international community around those discussions to ensure we have a common language across borders. So as you can see, this is a little bit of a hierarchical structure. On the very top of it, you have international standardization, which again involves the global community. We have the European standards groups, which has also the capacity to put in regulatory demands, as is the case with AI, with the upcoming AI Act. So I'll talk a little bit more about that as we progress along. We have things at national level, which again could facilitate specific needs of the UK community, to meet the needs of UK legislators, to target specific components that are national specific. Beyond that, we also collaborate with a number of groups. Some of them are universities or other types of academia groups where we produce very bespoke specifications or guidances to, again, target specific needs, whether it's around a methodology that's up and coming but not yet enforced, to gain recognition in a new developing area that's up and coming, to give it the level of prestige and acknowledgement that's needed. So our remit of work is quite extensive, even within just the standards development component of it. Within the standards body, we actually develop a range of standards. We facilitate any national conversations that we're looking to explore. We feed into the European and international communities and representative of UK stakeholders. This is pretty much a broad scope of what most committees would consist of. And as you can see, the committee membership are there to also form a network of their own. So part of it is, yes, contributing the expertise and the common practices around UK industries to help us guide and shape what future good looks like. And the other side of it is the people who are contributing to it will also be the end users of the standards. So what goes into the contents needs to make sense when it comes to the implementation part. This is why consumer groups, professional institutions, as well as all the commercial entities and enterprises along it needs to be engaged from the get-go. So the content that's going in is going to be useful to them at the end of it when the document comes out for deliverables. Within the AI space in particular, we've seen over the last 4 years, 3 to 4 years, the establishment of the international standards community. So the more keen-eyed of you would recognize the number of reference to 42, thanks to our Douglas Adam mentioned the other day. Unfortunately, much like the philosophical presentation around did we ask the right question, by having the number 42, unfortunately, hasn't given us the answer to all of life's problems either. But it did certainly lead to a number of jokes, especially given AI as a topic assigned to this group. And for the European side, we have the Sensenelec community, which again have the joint creation of TC21, which is Technical Committee 21. Please don't be alarmed by all the acronyms and letters. It's mainly just a reference group of where the work has been allocated to for development. So those two are the direct mirror relations that we have as a BSI community, that we directly contribute UK opinions and take forward UK positions onto. A lot of the recruitment that happens around the membership is specific to what subject topic are being developed, and also to help facilitate wider discussions in anticipation of regulatory changes and communication. So within the UK community, I think government is certainly playing a bigger part given our recent Brexit status. So our position within the wider landscape in a global setting has also changed somewhat. We're still very much committed to being a part of the standards community. We're still founding members of most of the groups here. So that definitely still assures us a seat around the table in terms of contributing towards the UK voice in the projects going forward. And we also have quite a key number of leadership roles within it. When we talk about leadership roles within the standards community, it's around consensus building. So in fact, the higher you are in the ranks, the more neutral the position you have. And the role is basically to facilitate discussion and ensure that consensus is reached throughout the development process. At the moment, within the international group of SC42, which I would say is probably where the majority of the standards development activity is taking place now. At the end of the presentation, I have a slide with some useful links for those of you who are interested in doing a bit more of a deep dive to explore some of the contents. We probably don't have enough time to go to detail about each of the discussions on all the subject areas that's being developed, but I'll try my best to give you an overview of what's going on. But the space is set out with 33 participating members, 17 observing members, and those members are national standards bodies. So they're all individual countries from around the world, from different levels of development within AI, different levels of commercial interest, regulatory influences. And the 6 working groups, soon to become 7 at the moment, are basically working setups where you can have a number of different projects going on. It's themed according to topic area and subject proximity. So we're hoping to see that expand, and we are seeing an escalation in activities and interest really from quite a breadth of engagements. The UK members, I think, have been particularly fortunate in the sense that we've got a very active engagement community within AI in the UK. We've had quite a breadth of activities across horizontal sectors. One of the key things that has been evident from day one within the AI community is that we do not have the luxury of operating in silos. We do not have the luxury of limiting specific verticals. Whatever procedures and advice, guidance, standardization, specification that's being put out there needs to be across a lateral platform, needs to be applied horizontally across all sectors. So that's also reflected in our membership. We've got a diverse range of sectors participating, everything from music, gaming, legal, government, to medical. So it's very rare for a highly technical committee to have that constitution as a membership foundation. So I know the numbers aren't, and text is probably not too easy to read, but I believe the presentation will be made available so you can take your own time in going through some of the finer wordings. Effectively, this is a bit of a rough outline of the work that we're looking to be producing. It doesn't list everything that's been published so far. But these are the upcoming programs that are in development. So when things go out for public consultation, you're invited to engage with us. If you have additional resources to want to come and participate as members, come and talk to me about it, because that's going to be a longer conversation as well than what we can cover today. But effectively, it's quite an open flow in terms of membership. People come and go from different aspects depending on what work is coming in, what work has been completed, what their resourcing looks like at any particular time. I think one of the things that's been highlighted here is AI management systems. And the reason we are dwelling a little bit on this is because this is probably the closest thing we have to reaching certification that's in the pipeline for development. And the implications of that is the term management systems. So those of you, anyone who's touched base with compliance in any capacity would be familiar with the structure of management systems. It lists some of the examples around 27001 for info security, 9001, which is kind of the parent structure for it all. What this provides is an overarching structure that's well recognized within the auditing certification community, that's widely recognized as a means to facilitate trade and development and innovation. So what we're hoping to do through the course of standards that are being produced now is to provide that foundational bed to ensure trust and in adoption, to ensure compliance in a provable way for companies to really enter this space with a little bit more security and assurance. In terms of future work, one of the key things that we're looking to establish from the get-go is the basic structural bedding. We're not at the point yet to be standardizing the level of details that we've perhaps gone into over the last few days. So specific methodologies, algorithmic specifications, any constraints or restrictions around innovation and design is not at all what we would want to do. And in fact, standardization as a whole doesn't permit restriction for commercial benefits or to specific groups or the interest in putting a hindrance in any way to innovation or creativity. So in some contexts, I think standardization gets bulked in with the regulatory piece of being a little bit of a red tape image, but standards in this context of what we're doing within AI is certainly not at the level where we can actually say this is the business model that 90% of the community goes by, so we can go and provide a little bit more specification around it and detailedly regulate that. Where we are now is very much at the starting point where we say, what can we do to provide you with a safe understanding of what bias is? What can we do to roll out standards that feed in and support other concepts and understanding of what trustworthiness, but how does that look for AI? What vocabulary are we using? What are the basic concepts around incorporating AI in a governance structure? How do we roll that out in terms of compliance? How do we demonstrate to others that what we're doing is recognized as good practice? What are we doing that's recognized globally as something that's for the support of innovation in compliance with legislation? So all those questions are things that we're looking to target and provide solutions for within this community. And I think the original proposals are still up and coming. We do receive a fairly good number of new proposals year on year. And that's, again, a reflection of market maturity, depending on the subject areas we're talking about, a need to support legislation. So with the AI Act fast approaching, I say fast approaching, that may be a relative term, depending on what timeline you guys are more used to working towards. But certainly within the European space, there is a discussion about setting standards to be specifically branded as harmonized standards, and that gives it an elevation to say we recognize that the following list of standards to be specifically set out to help you meet the needs of regulatory requirement. So again, the level of activity and engagement and acknowledgement we have as a standards community is very high, and that trust is also what supports the solution to innovation needs to help support the UK really be put on the map if we have a voice around what our specific sense of direction and priority is. and how do we want to reflect that in the projects that are being led, in the proposals that are being made, in the way that we understand what's going on. So looking at standardization and AI, I think this is quite an ongoing conversation, and there is an ongoing piece of education that's needed as well in terms of introducing who we are, understanding the full capacity and remit of possibilities that AI standardization can offer, from the very nitty-gritty research level to the much higher level, broad board management system level. And between that, it's anything and everything is possible for standards to help achieve and solve specific problems. One of the new projects that we're looking to do and have already been announced in some capacities is the AI Hub. It's a joint collaboration between us, DCMS, MPL, and also Alan Turing Institute. This is looking to provide a little bit of a touch-base point around standards tracking. So what are we actually doing within the different communities, aligning some of the horizontal conversations that's happening around the board, picking up on other areas of development, perhaps that's not specifically under SC42, but have AI references, be it in the medical space, be it in the security space or otherwise. And it's also there to create a community for non-standards developers to engage with us in a more open way. So if you don't have the resourcing to commit to sending people and drafting on 23 standards, this is another easy touch-base point to go, hey, let's just have a chat about stuff. We're also working on a number of other side projects, as my colleague Emma will be able to tell you more about, with specific relationships to various academic institutions. At the moment, I'm also heading up a research project with UCL to help some of their postgrad deliverables. So again, there's tons of opportunities for further collaboration, and each of them has a specific format intended to meet the needs of that specific project. So it's a very much tailored approach across the board, and that goes for most of our engagements. No two committees ever look the same, no two committee member ever looks the same, no two standards ever look the same. So that's kind of the approach that we're taking, is to be as tailored as possible, to be very specific to answering the needs as possible. These are some useful links for you guys to have a look into if you have time, if you have interest. The committee membership is open to all. In the UK, we are fortunate enough not to charge members for participation. That's not the case across all other NSBs, national standards bodies. But for us, it's very much on a come if you can basis. And I think, without further ado, I'll probably open up the floor for questions, because I feel that may be a better way of communicating and answering specific issues that you may want to address here.